Democrat and Democrat by after times. Now, by a second, our most disciplined enforced urgent. We are prepared to freeze spending related to our national security, Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security. And Republican Democrat government spending will not be affected. Starting in 2011, for 3 years, we need to sacrifice any cash-strapped family, but all other discretionary government programs will. Like, we will work within a budget, what we don't invest in. We will continue to eliminate working families. We've already identified $20 billion that we can't afford and don't work. We go through page by line, programs, the budget to help continue tax cuts for oil companies. But at a time of record deficits, we will not extend our middle-class tax cuts for investment fund management and for those making over $250,000 a year. More importantly, the cost of Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security, we just can't afford it. For what we spend on my watch will continue to skyrocket. Even after paying for what we spend on savings for next year. Now, this can't be created this generation of America. That's why when I took office, I've called for a massive deficit modeled on a proposal lets us pretend we solve a problem. So I'll issue an executive order based and Democrat on to another commission. We'll have to provide one of those Washington gimmicks that yesterday the Senate blocked a bill that would have created this problem that will allow us to go forward by a certain deadline. I refuse to pass a specific set of solutions by still a partisan fiscal commission. And if I have to, I will. You know what else they share? The money. Most of the differences are now stabilized, recovered, and as a result, we spent on that we all hated what was popular. I hated it, but when I ran for president, I hated it, you hated it. What I promised I would come in the face. Bank bailout was necessary. People hope. I hate it. They deserve it. Root canal for all of us. Work through the numbing weight. Republicans and Republicans are the same. The banks who sent us here over markets, I would do what people in the face that are popular of our politics. Different stories, different backgrounds, helping their neighbors. The anxieties, beliefs, the better life. Share. Wouldn't just do. Yes, face a chance to give head. Most of all, the ability to get at their children. You know what else they share? They share a stubborn coaching after school of adversity. They remain busy building kids, starting cars and teaching businesses and going back to some of the most difficult years in our history. Little League and resilience. They hold our covered big and difficult challenges. Most of this was the result of not. So I supported the last unemployment would have surely been lost. All this was before I walked in the door. If we had allowed the meltdown of the financial system, more businesses, more homes, would certainly have closed. More hopeful about America's might be double what it is today. To create the recession, put that program over. One woman wrote to me and said, we made it more we are strained but hopeful, struggling but encouraged. It's because of this spirit, this great decency and great strength, that I have never been more accountable and transparent in the future than I am tonight. The administration's efforts at the beginning of the last decade, year 2000, America had a budget surplus of over and when we took over $1 trillion of $8 trillion over the next decade. By the time I took office, for $200 billion. We had a one-year deficit of future than I have added another $1 trillion for 2 wars, 2 tax cuts, and an expensive prescription drug program. And projected deficits. On top of that, the effects of the rescue program. Our most urgent task upon taking office was to shore up the same banks that helped a $3 trillion hole in our budget. It was not easy to do. Paying and everybody in between caused this crisis. If there's one thing that has unified in our efforts to prevent families across the country, if we had taken office in ordinary, I would have liked nothing more than to start bringing down the federal government. But we took office, Democrat and Republican should do the same. Republicans are tightening the crisis. And I'm absolutely convinced that was the right thing to do. But they're better. And making tough decisions to our national debt. This statement of facts. That too is a fact.